I'm a very paper person.
We are all about paper.
Yeah, I love it.
If you ask us to read on a Kindle,
I find
it's a
very,
nightmare.
very difficult.
It's very difficult.
For me, writing is while I'm waking up, I have all these words that are running through my head, okay? And I have woken up, I have picked up my phone like this, and I've just written, kept my phone back, and then I've continued with my day.
It sounds like a trance,
It
because
is.
It is you are not actually awake.
When you write from life, you write from experience, you write from other people's experience,
Right.
you write from, conversations you've had, feelings you felt. You write from everything. He's more a watcher and a listener than a reader.
Okay.
So he likes reading certain books. He loves aliens.
That is
reading
another
about
podcast in the making.
Yeah, you should do
Just
that with him.
aliens.
Just
That's
aliens.
it.
Yeah.
Hello, Booknerds. Welcome to the Booknerds podcast. This is a very special edition and this is very impromptu. We did not plan this at all. And we are in Bengaluru and shooting this here at a very nice hotel, which has great hospitality. And Maria has been very kind to let us into her personal space. And this is a first, for at least our team at Booknerds. So the occasion, of course, is this amazing book, To the Moon and Back. It's just brilliant. And the subtitle is very aptly Life, Love, and Everything in Between. So first of all, I encourage you to pick up the book and you'll understand what I mean later. Maria, of course, welcome to the Booknerds podcast. We host a lot of authors, but this is really special because this is so impromptu. We never planned this, and the best things in life do happen like that.
I totally agree with you.
Like your author career.
Yes.
So,
oh my God, yes.
I need not introduce you to the Booknerds community and whoever is watching this because you are so many things. And whenever I look at you and, go through your profile, it's always there's one image that comes to my head. That is Kali. You have so many hands, you do so many things. And it's a very powerful image. Growing up as well, I was fascinated. And it seems like that. The hands are not showing, but they are there,
Thank you.
So
I'm very honored and very flattered.
So there's this book as well,
Yep.
which was published earlier, and it's about, of course, the culinary
Food.
arts, yes, which you are very good at.
Thank
but
you.
today we'll be concentrating on this one, To the Moon and Back. So first of all, the need for this book, because we need to know why poetry. And some people say that poetry is, sometimes some people call it stupid, right? That why write poetry at all? Because what is the need, Just like some people question fiction books. Why write fiction? I mean, just catalog something and an easy, perhaps a very easy to write non-fiction book can come in. But why poetry of all the genres?
So, like most things in my life, I never planned to write poetry or even write a book. But I think I started blogging and I started writing in 2010. In 2011, I think somewhere I wrote my first piece. And at first, when I started writing, at first there were just these lines that were running through my head. And I never wrote them down or I never paid attention to it. But it's like if I would just sit and I would be saying one line after the other, after the other, after the other in my head. And then sometimes I would wait for a bit of time and it would still be there.
Right.
So I started penning my thoughts and whatever was running through my head, I started putting it down on my phone. So both my books I've written on my phone.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very bad at typing.
Okay.
But I'm very good on my phone.
That's cool. I mean,
phone.
I know. I mean, there are so many authors who have different sort of, tools to, work with. Of course, the greatest of them all, Ruskin Bond. And he's always writing in Landor. And he writes by hand, right? So that's something which suits him. And the Gen Z, millennials, whatever you call them, we have our own tools. And we work better that way. So whatever flows for people. I know some people on our community who will be like, no, let's type or let's write. But it's always...
So I think because when I'm when I have all these lines that are coming through, they come at a pace,
Oh, right.
So I find it easier to just go cut,
Yeah.
whatever. And it's I know it sounds really weird, but it's like a download.
Yes. It's a flow.
It's a
that's
flow.
coming up.
Yeah. And then after some time, I'm like done.
Okay.
Then I leave it. So I
Wonderful.
started doing this in 2011, and some pieces I would put out on my blog.
Okay.
Some pieces I would just keep.
Okay.
And very slowly I realized that I had quite a number of poems that I'd written
Yeah.
over the years.
Yeah.
And I think once my food book got over,
Yeah.
somewhere 2017 probably, 18, Deepa, who was with Om Books at that time,
Right.
she told me, she said, do you want to send me all the pieces that you've written? So I said, are you serious? She said, yeah, Maria, just send it. We'll see whether you should be publishing them or not. Or
Right.
I was very unsure about this. And then I had to pull them out of all my phone and sometimes my laptop. Some pieces were on my blog, so I had to compile it all together. And I sent it to her, and she called me back in a week and she said, you have some really amazing pieces there. And I think we have a wonderful book. So let's get editing. So I was like, okay. And then Ipshita
Yep.
was my editor. She brought the whole thing down. So we came from 100 to 70.
Okay.
And then from 70 to 50. Then from 50 to 40. So in 2000, I think 18, 17,
Okay.
it had come down to about 50. We were between 50, 40, 50, 40.
Yeah.
And I remember I was doing this wonderful show in the middle of a forest. And I was there for a month. And no phones worked there. It was bliss.
Wow.
So you had the old-fashioned phone. So everybody, the crew, everyone get up in the morning and we would all go and make our calls home. And we'd all stand in line. Yeah. And
That's
then,
writer Nirvana.
Heaven.
Heaven, right.
oh my God, it was beautiful. Your phone never rang, nothing. And so at that point of time, I put them all together and I started editing it. And I think I had my first set that was going to go. After that, lockdown hit.
Yeah.
And I had lots of time to edit.
Oh, yes. But I've heard that editing poetry, I mean, especially yours, if you're editing your own poetry, is sometimes a nightmare.
It is. Because the more you read it, the more you begin hating it.
Why is that? Because
don't know.
I know it happens with fiction, but with poetry, because it's a flow, right? But
Yeah,
then
but
again,
then
it gets mechanical if you're going back to it.
So I'm reading it. So I'm reading this and saying, okay, I think this needs to be a little tighter. And okay, how do I... Now the thing is, poetry for me at least is a flow. So unless when I'm reading it, it's not melding into one another, I can't just say, oh, edit, so take this answer, that's... So, it was a long process. And also what happens is, your thoughts changed, everything's changed.
Yeah.
So during the lockdown, I think I rewrote 50% of the book.
You change as a person, maybe.
Yeah, you change as a person.
And many of us did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, if I started writing in 2010 and my book released in 2023, there are many me's that have lived,
Right.
Can
you tell us specifically, like, what changed perhaps in the book? You were like, no, this will not work. Perhaps one example.
So I think some of the emotions in the book, when I read them, say in 2000, when I wrote them in 2010 or 11 or 12 or 13, I think that girl was one.
Oh, okay.
I think then I again changed as a person somewhere from 2016
Okay.
to about 19.
So the worldview perhaps also changed everything,
Your
right?
views on the world, your views on life, your views on relationships,
Yeah.
your views on love, your views on yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
I can
and
understand, because
yeah,
if somebody would have asked me to write a book, perhaps I haven't. My book is so delayed.
all of us are like that. It's okay.
Yes.
Don't
So
worry. Don't
so
stress.
if I would have written it before, say, 2014 or something, when I was not married, I had a different outlook towards life. It would have been a very different book, perhaps. It would have been called different.
Yeah.
But now it's like, it can be a completely different book.
Yeah.
So I can totally get that. Okay.
So
Yes.
so like I was saying, so when I read the poems that I'd written earlier, say before 2016, I would read them and I would say, okay, but no, not really, you know. And so I think also as a writer, your thought, your experience of the world, with every passing experience, your everything changes.
Right.
There's a shift in your DNA. There's a shift in your molecules with everything that happens. People say, okay, so this is your DNA and this is how you were born, this is how you will die.
Right.
But I don't think so. I think you're born a certain way and everything in you shifts with your experiences. Good, bad, how you walk with it, how you resist it, how you accept it. It all changes something inside you. It all changes your brain, and it changes how you feel, and it changes you as a person. And I always know at the end of everything, you're always a better person.
Oh, yes.
For whatever it is. And I'm happy about that.
Wonderful. Okay, tell us about your writing and reading nook. Just we want to kind of visualize, because you will never take us there, I imagine. So tell us a bit about do you have a specific place? Do you kind of love to write in a specific place? For example, you got that, writing sort of haven in the forest, but that's, I think so, not, it's occasional.
That wasn't, no, that was when everything was done and I was just editing.
Okay.
So my crew used to see me with lots of papers in the morning, and some of them would fly, and then we were just talking about it. In fact, during the book launch, I was talking to Nidhi and Ashraf, who are my producers and directors.
Right.
And I was telling them, I said, can you believe this is finally out? They were like, yeah, all we remember of you is papers. Papers are flying. You're picking them up, because I'm a very paper person.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
You're at the right place. We are all about paper.
Yeah, I love it.
If you ask us to read on a Kindle,
I find
it's a nightmare.
Very difficult.
It's very difficult. I own a Kindle, obviously, for obvious reasons, because if I want to reach out to Maria's book all of a sudden, then I wouldn't be able to sometimes. But it's just...
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the
It's
same.
not the same.
I know.
Cool. So you're reading and writing book. That was my question.
So, my writing places have been varied.
Okay.
And like I told you, for me, writing is it's like sometimes while I'm waking up, I have all these words that are running through my head. Okay. And I have woken up, I have picked up my phone like this, and I've just written, kept my phone back.
Wow.
And then I've continued with my day.
It sounds like a trance, because it is you are not actually awake. Right?
There are writers and there are poets, and that's what they do.
Right.
I think for me, as far as writing is concerned, I think it was just something that was preordained that I had to do.
Yeah.
And so all this came out of me.
Yeah.
And if you tell me, oh, why don't you sit and why don't you, make a poem about something, I can't do it.
I don't think so how that works, because I recently watched a podcast. Anupama Chopra was interviewing Anirudh, who has given music to so many great movies like Jawan and what. So they were talking about the same process, and they were like, I can't, make
on
music
demand.
On demand.
On demand.
I
I can't do things on demand.
So they have a process, like they will make music every day, and then of course they'll fit it anywhere. It sounds very similar.
For me, I realize that when I'm by the sea, or when I'm in the mountains, or when I'm in nature, I think my whole body just relaxes.
Oh,
and I am just, in so much of peace, and there is like music in my head,
Ah.
and
I
it
wish
feels
we
so
were doing this in Landor.
good.
That would have been so much better. But we'll have to make do with
Yeah.
Bengaluru.
But I don't, if you tell me, do you have a specific corner that you sit
Yeah.
and write? The answer is no. I think it's a particular state of mind.
Okay, it's
And I
more
could
about
be
the
anywhere.
mindset.
Yeah,
It's
I could
about
be
the mindset.
anywhere. It's how my insides are feeling.
Yeah.
Is what it is what helps me write
Yeah.
more than my setting.
I know.
If I have the best setting, of course, it's just
It's better. Even
cherry
better.
on the cake.
Right.
But yeah.
So you want, have you done a specific like a retreat sort of thing? Like I met Manav Kaul and he was like, मैं तो Landor जाके ही लिखता हूँ, मतलब वैसा, he is like that. So I know it's not possible always, but have you made that trip for just writing?
No, I have
Okay.
never made
Cool.
a just writing trip.
You can.
I could use that as a great
Yes.
holiday.
Yes. Great holiday.
I would
Yeah.
use that as a great holiday.
A writing
but,
retreat.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have written all over. Like I remember going on a trek to Kilimanjaro, and I remember sitting one day, and we were on our second or third day, and and I remember on the third day we could see the peak,
Okay.
and I remember sitting there early in the morning and then writing a piece.
Wow.
But it's just that,
That's
like
not
I
bad.
said, yeah,
Not a bad setting at all.
It's beautiful
It's
setting.
beautiful.
But it's just that it just, like I said, I feel for me, poems are a spiritual experience, and it's like I feel the need to get all these words out on paper,
Ah.
and then I'm fine.
I get it totally. It sounds a lot about, like we discussed, the music process.
Yeah.
It sounds a lot like that. I think so. Poetry is one genre which is a bit different to the fiction and non-fiction
Yeah.
writing thing, where it's more closer to music.
Yeah, it is.
So, okay, let's get down to business, to the moon and back. And I read it. I would love you to read it because it is the title poem.
Okay, the
and,
title poem.
Yeah, so it has to be. Did it come first or somewhere in the middle?
No, it
Okay.
didn't come first.
Look,
It came somewhere, I don't
Okay.
remember when,
But
but it didn't come first. If you ask me now which one came first, there were 100. These
Right.
are 40.
yes.
So the first one I wrote was a piece called Little Lamb. I still remember
Okay.
it. It may be somewhere in my phone.
Okay.
And that was the first piece I wrote.
What's your folder called? With all the,
I don't have folders. I don't know how to
Okay.
make folders.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Okay, I'll read you this piece. And so they travelled miles just to hold each other tight, for all they had was paucity of time. She would always break his heart, he said. Not completely true, she said. She would be breaking two, she knew. One his, one hers. But then he said goodbye and broke her heart. I've not read this for a very long time.
It's fine. It's fine.
I'll read it again. Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah, sure.
Because I've only not read it for a very long time. I think since I edited it, I've not looked at the book.
It's fine. A lot of people do that. It's
I've
fine.
just not looked at it since then. Okay. And so they travelled miles just to hold each other tight. For all they had was paucity of time. She would always break his heart, he said. No, not completely true, she said. She would be breaking two, she knew. One his, one hers. And then he said goodbye and broke her hearts into fragments of a different kind. Because at the moment, she could not make it right and he did not have the time. They both deserved a heart that could be home. She looked at all the love she held that had only his name, to the moon and back several times. She scattered it all around him, hoping the clouds, the flowers, a few paths, butterfly wings, babbling brooks, wandering wild animals, chirping birds, and the breeze that caressed his skin would always remind him, somewhere in all the chaos and din, a girl who had not stepped over lines, jumped over walls and broke through life's barricades because she loved him. But she has all the odds stacked against her, and time was never their ally. Was this not meant to be? Is this how the story ends? Well, I don't know. A little courage and a lot of hope make dreams come true, they say. But right now, he and she are traveling miles to the moon and back again, only in opposite ways.
Oh, wonderful. That's beautiful. And oh, I didn't clap. It's so beautiful because poetry, in some ways, some people just fear poetry because they are, fearful of looking into themselves too much.
Yeah.
If I am making myself clear,
No,
I don't
no,
know.
of course, I get you
So
completely.
It's uh, have you experienced that when you write or read poetry, and if you have read some poetry which has affected you, that is also welcome, of course, recommendations. But have you felt if you are in this mode, you are looking into yourself too much, and perhaps you are at the risk of perhaps bearing a bit
But
too
you always,
much?
when you write, I always feel writing is a very personal experience. And when you write from life, you write from experience, you write from other people's experience,
Right.
you write from stories you've heard, you write from stories that touch you, you write from, conversations you've had, feelings you felt. You write from everything.
Yeah.
Because writing is an all encompassing experience. So sometimes you write from what comes deep in your gut. Sometimes you write from something that you heard that really, really touched your heart. Sometimes you write out of a feeling of empathy because of what you've heard about somebody going through. So I think writing is all about that.
Yeah.
And it's how you've kind of taken it into your system, and then how are you feeling about it is what finally comes out.
Actually, that was poetry right there. I think so. It rhymed a lot. If you go back to it, we'll watch it again. But that was it was quite poetic. So, but that's why a lot of people are afraid of it, especially in the establishment. People are afraid of poetry because historically, poetry has created problems.
Yeah.
Because it's a great tool and people can understand it also very quickly. It's easier to consume. Especially in the Middle Eastern countries, poets used to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of poets, what they did was
They were also so political.
activism, and they used it so effectively that the establishment. I think I was reading a book about Iran, and it was the same
Yes.
case. The poets were targeted immediately. I think it was Persepolis. So what happened was that they immediately knew that these guys have to be targeted because they are making people feel,
Yeah.
and that's
Exactly.
a very dangerous
And I
place.
think, and I think most of the time people are frightened of their feelings. And I think, it's easier to have, I think in a lot of times, it's easier to have no relationship or not be involved or not want to get into something where your feet get dirty rather than walk through the muck and then walk out.
Right.
And I think for me, poetry is that. It's like you get into it, you get deep into it, and then you probably walk parallel underground or you probably dig deeper.
Yeah.
But you know that there will be a tunnel that you walk out of.
Yeah.
And when you do, you've been able to consume everything in the best way possible. And, you come out all sparkly on the other side. I may be a bit utopian, but then that's me.
No, that's good. That's good because I think so. All writers and poets are a bit crazy.
Yeah, you have to
you
be.
have to be.
You have to
Otherwise,
be.
you won't be doing that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's absolutely fine. My next question was that because this one came first,
Yeah.
and this is like, I believe, of course, it's about passion, and it
Yeah.
will ooze through, and it did. But this is more of a, it's a more of a mechanical process, right? And this is, of course, the flow that you were talking about, and it coincided as well. But the book came out later.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about this one as well, because maybe some people are not aware about
my
it.
God, this book, From
Yeah.
My Kitchen to Yours, is a work of complete passion.
Yes.
So, when Margot first approached me and he had read my blog, and I was doing a lot of experiments with food, and I used to write on the side. So I would give you a recipe, but then I would link it with something and something and something, and there was always
You
this.
mean history?
No.
Okay.
To do with everyday life.
Everyday life.
Everyday life, everyday relationship, feelings, but I would always link it to food.
पढ़ी नहीं है इसलिए. I'm so sorry.
Like
but
it.
I was concentrating on this and I couldn't get away from this.
So my blog had all of these things in it. And then it came down to doing the recipes. And I realized that since I am a person who does not own a restaurant and does not have a cafe, and I'm not selling food online, I cook merely out of passion. Okay? And so I was not being able to figure how to do this. Then I realized, I said, okay, why do I cook? Who do I cook for? You know, and I realized that I cook for people I love, for occasions that I love, for, that's my jam, you know. So then I tried many ways to do this book. So it took really long.
Okay.
And then finally I realized, I said, okay, that's what it is. I am going to divide this from Jan to December.
Okay.
Each month I'm going to attach an emotion to it and go with that.
Oh, nice.
So that's exactly what it is. So Jan was, you know, all of us get into Jan saying, oh, now we're going to be healthy, now we're going to do this.
Oh, yes. Oh.
So it's a supposedly healthy menu. Then Feb is, everyone is like all mushy because it's Valentine's Day.
Yes.
So it's a aphrodisiac menu. Then March used to normally be Easter. So it's an East Indian menu because I'm East Indian. April is Arshad's birthday. So it's a menu that he likes.
Oh, nice.
May was...
he would have appreciated that chapter, right? He would be like, okay, I'm in there. That would be...
He's more a watcher and a listener than a reader.
Okay.
So he likes reading certain books. He loves aliens.
Oh, nice.
And he loves all books on aliens. And he has various theories that he keeps reading about.
That is another podcast in the making.
Yeah, you should do
Just
that. Just
aliens.
Just
That's
aliens.
it.
Yeah. And so May is for children.
Okay.
June I've forgotten. July I've also forgotten.
No worries. But the theme is very interesting.
Yeah, so every month has something, and then it ends with December, which is my birthday month, and Christmas.
Nice.
So it's got a Christmas menu. And all the recipes, all the chapters have a soup in the beginning, except Christmas. It has mulled wine.
Okay. It has to be that.
Yeah, it has to be that.
But so, you know, it's interesting because all the cookbooks, so since the pandemic, I have read too many cookbooks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was learning from them as well. So like I checked out the Parsi Kitchen by
such a nice
Anahita.
one.
It's such a nice one because there's history as well. There has to be a theme in a cookbook. And we are, I think so, was it Cookbook Day on 12th? It's on 12th, right? I think
really?
so.
Please tell me.
October 12th.
Do this.
And the team can check it and let me know. But I suppose because I hosted Veer Sangvi once, a couple of years back on the same day. So it's very interesting in a cookbook, if there is no theme, you know, it gets a bit tardy. You can't read it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the Parsi Kitchen. And of course yours. I'm very happy that authors are kind of, and chefs are trying to make an effort to make the book interesting as a read as well.
I think it should be.
It should be because the traditional cookbook didn't have that.
Yeah. And you know, the other thing that I did with my cookbook is I didn't use a food stylist.
Okay.
There is no food styling in my book.
Oh, nice.
At all. So all my food was freshly cooked, plated by me, and it was shot. So I refused to do any styling to the food. I said, you know why? Because when I was learning, and I would open a cookbook and I would look at it and say, oh my God, I'm going to be making this. And then it would look nothing like that.
Yeah.
So I decided that when I do this, it has to be what it is.
Yeah.
You know, if I can do this with my bare hands at home, so can you. Right. So I kept the book. There were two ways you can do a
You
food
didn't
book.
sanitize it too much.
Not at all. And I also feel that, you know, you can write in two ways. You can write in a way where everyone gets so impressed with your language. And I could have written my poetry in a completely different fashion.
I know. It is like,
Simple.
like Karuna said yesterday in a session that, Karuna is a poet, of course, for those who don't know her. So she said that it can get elusive.
Yeah.
Which is quite relevant, because if it is elusive and it is not accessible, how will it reach out to
How
people?
will it reach out? Exactly.
It doesn't have to be what do you call light in so many terms, but
so poetry has depth, whether you like it or not.
yes,
Okay, it has depth.
it doesn't have to be
the thing is-
complicated.
yeah, exactly. Now the thing is, there are, like, even with food, I could have written this book in a different manner, where I could have put in recipes that were very difficult and many methods, and I could have done that.
The science of
Yeah.
it also, it
I could have
can
done
get really
that.
complicated.
Yeah.
That's super,
that
because
is
most of the
important.
times,
Yeah.
especially if the kind of background I come from, we have only certain number of ingredients at home.
Yeah.
Not all exotic ingredients
Exactly.
are accessible
Yeah.
to most of India / Bharat, whatever you call it. So that's something I'm very happy that you thought about the
No,
wider
had to
sort
be.
of,
Had to be.
Yeah.
So even when I was writing, even when I was doing the book, my poetry book, I felt that if I keep the language simple, it is accessible to each and every one. And when you read it, you realize it's really not simple.
Wow. Yes. So that's
is not.
That's the, I think so. Readers, read into it very, the mature readers at least, they understand that.
Yeah.
And they read between the lines, and
Correct.
then they'll go on Amazon or whatever. They'll DM you and tell you, okay, I got this. I understood what you were trying to communicate, and that's, I think so, the best compliment coming from readers, especially.
No, that is. And I have to say one thing, that to everyone who's watching this podcast or hearing it, if you've read the book, please leave a review for me on Amazon. Everyone.
पहले तो खरीदना है.
हाँ, पहले
You have to
खरीदो.
buy it first, of course, and then leave a review. It
Yeah,
could be
please.
anywhere, of course, Amazon preferably, because that increases the rating as well. Okay,
But also, it's like, I love the feedback.
How will a
Because
writer improve?
how would I know? It's like sometimes you write, but till it doesn't touch you,
Yeah,
how would I know whether
right.
you got it, or
Yes,
have you
yes,
felt this?
yes.
Did you
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
this?
I do write reviews like professionally as well,
Wow.
but no, when I do it very, sort of in a very organic manner, when I feel good and suddenly I write a review, those are the best.
Those are the
reviews.
best.
Those
Yeah.
are the best.
So I've had a few people who've written back to me and saying, I love this poem. This so resonated with me. I had to read this today. That's, and I feel so good about it. I feel so nice. And I always tell everyone, I said, it's that all of us have the same insides. We all
Totally.
feel the same.
Yeah.
You cut anyone, we all bleed.
That's it.
None of us don't,
The influences can be
Yeah.
different, but
Yeah,
ultimately
exactly.
it is just
And
that.
we all go through the same things in life,
Yeah.
but you have a choice on how to deal with it.
I think so. After COVID, if people haven't learned that, it's like we won't learn ever, because I still feel that it changed a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah. Thanks, Maria, for doing this. This book is already out. I think so.
Yes,
It's already
it is.
out. Yes.
It is out.
So you can buy it at on Amazon and independent bookstores as well.
I am not too sure where all the distribution
Om
is.
is there.
Yeah, there is
Home bookstores,
Yeah.
they are around the country. You can check them out, their locations. They are there. And very soon, perhaps it'll be at many other bookstores.
Hopefully. Yes.
So Amazon to hai.
Yes.
Get the book. And of course, Maria has been very kind, shared a lot of, when you're discussing poetry, it gets a bit, too insightful sometimes. So bear with us. Do listen to the entire podcast. And thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you
and
very
on a
much.
very short notice. You're such a professional. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And until next time, until the next podcast, I can't promise when we come back again. But yeah, happy reading.